Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into the origins of some truly huge ideas, concepts about duty, reality, and our place in the universe that have shaped the lives of billions for thousands of years. We're going right back to the source. You've probably heard this phrase before, Satyameva Jayate. It's the national motto of India, a really powerful guiding principle for a whole nation. But have you ever wondered where it came from? Well, its roots go way back, nearly 3,000 years, to a collection of incredibly deep philosophical texts called the Upanishads. So to answer that, we've got to travel back in time to what's known as the Vedic age. We're about to explore this incredible ancient library of knowledge that for centuries wasn't written down in a book. It was heard. All right, so where does all this start? It starts with a vast body of texts known as the Vedas. But here is the absolute key. These weren't seen as the work of some human author. They were considered timeless, something divinely revealed. The word for it is aparushiheya, which literally means not of human origin. You know, the names themselves tell you the whole story. Veda means knowledge, and Shruti means what is heard. So this tells you right away that this was a tradition built entirely on divine knowledge, passed down orally from teacher to student, and memorized with perfect word-for-word precision for centuries. Just imagine that. So this amazing oral library is organized into 4 main books. You've got the Rig Veda, it's the oldest, a huge collection of over 1,000 hymns to the gods. Then there's the Samaveda, which actually sets those hymns to music. It's basically the origin of Indian classical music. The Yajurveda is more of a how-to guide for priests, all about sacrificial rituals. And then, my personal favorite, the Atharva Veda. This one gives us this incredible window into daily life. It shows us that people back then weren't just thinking about high-minded philosophy. They needed spells for a good harvest, charms to win someone's love, and even remedies for what the text calls 99 diseases. But here's what's really fascinating. The society that created and passed down these texts wasn't just frozen in time. Not at all. In fact, it went through this massive transformation over nearly 1,000 years, going from small, wandering tribes to these big, settled kingdoms. We basically split the Vedic age into 2 phases. In the early period, which is what we see in the Rig Veda, society was made up of these pastoral, nomadic tribes. But then, around 1000 BCE, a technological revolution hits that changes everything: iron. The use of iron tools made it possible to clear the dense forests of the Ganga Valley, and that led to this huge shift towards settled agriculture. And you can really see the difference in the details. Get this. In that early period, the economy was so obsessed with cattle that their word for war, gavishti, literally meant a search for cows. The leader, the Raja, was basically a tribal chief who relied on people giving him voluntary tributes. Fast forward to the later period, and that Raja has become a hereditary king, ruling over a specific territory, collecting regular taxes from all the surplus crops. A completely different world. So you've got these bigger, more complicated kingdoms now. How do you keep them organized? Well, to create order, a kind of theoretical social structure was described in the sacred texts. And just like the Vedas themselves, this structure was said to have come from a divine source. This was called the Varna system, an ideal 4-part hierarchy that's laid out in this really famous hymn, the Purusha Sukta. It uses this powerful metaphor, describing society as if it emerged from a giant cosmic being. So the Brahmanas, the priests and teachers, came from the mouth, right? The source of sacred speech. The Kshatriyas, the warriors and rulers, they came from the arms, the source of strength. The Vaisyas, merchants and farmers, from the thighs, kind of the foundation that supports the whole body. And the Shudras, the laborers, came from the feet, the ones who carry society forward. Each group had its own specific duties, all seen as part of this one cosmic whole. Okay, let's switch gears to what is, for me, maybe the most profound shift of all. And that's this explosion of new philosophical ideas that happened in the later Vedic period. Ideas that started to question the very nature of reality itself. Thinkers started asking these enormous questions. They moved away from focusing on external rituals and sacrifices to this deep, inward spiritual search. They were wrestling with 2 huge concepts: Atman, which is the individual soul or the self, and Brahman, the ultimate universal reality that's underneath everything. And the big question was, okay, what's the connection between the 2? Now, this philosophical journey, which was recorded in the Upanishads, is where we see the birth of concepts that would become absolutely central to Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Ideas like samsara, this endless, often pretty painful cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Then there's the law of karma, this universal principle that your actions, both good and bad, determine what happens to you in your next life. And finally, the ultimate goal, moksha, which is this profound state of liberation from that entire cycle. So, and this is a really crucial point, this era wasn't about one single belief system that everybody agreed on. No way. It was more like a buzzing marketplace of ideas, challenging, competing, revolutionary ideas, with different schools of thought all fiercely debating each other. The main dividing line in this huge debate came down to one question. Did your school accept the divine authority of the Vedas or not? If you did, you were called Astika, or Orthodox. But if you rejected it, you were Gnostica, or Heterodox. And these guys were not afraid to challenge everything, from the power of priests all the way to the very existence of the soul. And some of these heterodox schools were seriously radical for their time. I mean, imagine this. You had the Carvakas, who were pure materialists. They argued that the only reality is what you can see and touch, and that pleasure is the highest good. Then you had the Ajivikas, who were fatalists. They believed everything is predetermined by destiny, so human effort is basically pointless. And it was out of this vibrant dissenting environment that new traditions like Jainism and Buddhism eventually emerged, bringing ideas like ahimsa, or nonviolence, to the forefront. So when you think of the Vedic age, don't picture some single, static culture. It was this dynamic, bubbling crucible of social, political, and spiritual innovation. It really laid the entire philosophical groundwork for thousands of years of thought that came after it. From that simple phrase about truth always triumphing, all the way to these complex theories about our place in the cosmos, the questions that were first asked during the Vedic age are still echoing today. They challenge us, they invite us to think deeply about our own lives, and they prove that the search for knowledge, for truth, is absolutely timeless.